Our next guest says that Geithner's visit really upgrades India's status in the international globalization pecking order. And he's the author of 3 Billion New Capitalists, The Great Shift of Wealth and Power to the East. And his new book, The Betrayal of American Prosperity, is set to come out next month. And he was one of the 3 noted economists to testify before Congress on China's currency policy last month. And we are joined by Clyde Prestowitz, who's president of the Economic Strategy Institute, and he joins us from our D.C. bureau. Good evening to you, Clyde. Thank you for sharing your time. Let's talk about Geithner's trip. I mean, overall, people are looking at, and what he'll actually achieve here. I mean, he's looking for dialogue. He's looking for export links. But what do you think is actually going to be signed and dotted?
Oh, I don't think too much concrete will be signed and dotted. No doubt there will be some trade deals or some investments announced. But I think the more important thing is that at the moment that we're having a tense discussion with China about currency manipulation and our enormous trade deficit with China, here's Secretary Geithner in India talking to the other Asian giant about cooperation and about mutual development, and talking to an Asian country whose economic and political system is much, much more simpatico with our own.
Okay, so that's interesting. So that's the symbolism of this trip, do you think, Clyde, that Geithner wants to show China that they're not the only game in town in the Asia-Pac?
There are a lot of elements in the mix here, but I think that that is a significant one, yes.
Okay, so what do they get? What does Geithner get from this? Does he get more bargaining power with China over its currency?
Well, I think he gets a closer relationship with India. India has been kind of a sleeper in a way. Its economy is growing as fast as China's economy. It's a democratic country. It's an economy that is not specifically a strategically export-oriented economy. It's an economy that is easier for U.S. companies to deal in. Google doesn't get hacked in India. The email of everyone doesn't get read in India. And so I think this highlights a closer relationship and opportunities that need to be developed in India.
Okay, but on balance, I mean, how important is India to the U.S. in comparison to China? Because you have the Indian economy, some gauge, still at half the rate and half the size of what China's is.
Well, but remember that China is an aging society. The Chinese population will begin to shrink in 7 or 8 years. India has an average age of about under 40. India's population is growing. India will surpass China as the country with the largest population sometime around 2030. So if you're looking long term, India is a good bet.
Oh, so it sounds like, Clyde, if you were to bet between Chindia, I mean, the Chindia debate, China versus India in the next few years, you're saying India is a better bet right now?
Well, look, in the immediate term, China, as you pointed out, is a bigger economy, and it is growing very rapidly. And so right now, China is more important than India. But that's not a reason to discount India. India is growing very rapidly, and as I said, it has longer-term, better demographic prospects than China. Moreover, India is in a very dangerous neighborhood. We have troops in Afghanistan and drones flying over Pakistan, and India is right next door. So India, as an ally to help stabilize that area, is very, very important.
Okay. Well, Clyde, I want to talk to you about the Chinese currency debate, because you were one of 3 noted economists to testify before Congress last month. Let me just ask you, how undervalued do you think the RMB is? I mean, we had, it seemed like there was consensus of 25 to 40% undervaluation, but then we had I guess the lobby department of the U.S. manufacturing group saying 50%. So in your view, RMB, where should it be at?
Well, as you said, there's a range of estimates, but I think the important point is that all of the estimates lie between 25 and 50%. So, you know, pick your number, but any of those numbers is big, and any of those numbers means that Chinese exports into the U.S. are being effectively heavily subsidized.
Okay, so what do you think then? Should there be tariffs levied, Clyde?
Well, I would like to see a deal between the U.S. and China, and in fact, I think a deal is being signaled. I think the fact that the administration delayed the report that they're supposed to make on April 15th with regard to whether or not China is a currency manipulator, the delay of that report, I think, signals that there is a deal in the works. And so I expect sometime in the next 3-4 months that we'll see some kind of an arrangement under which China allows its currency to appreciate a bit.